Hello, everyone. Welcome to Chapter 12. We are in the lymphatic system. We're going to be talking about the different structures of the lymphatic system, such as your lymphatic vessels, the different organs like lymph nodes, spleen, thymus, and then we're going to talk about more of their functions. So major functions of the lymphatic system is transporting fluids that have left the cardiovascular system, went into those interstitial regions when we are doing like gas and nutrient exchange, and they don't get picked back up on the venous end. So remember, on the arterial end of your blood vessels at the capillaries, we have fluids leaving the capillary, and then gas exchange, nutrient exchange occurs at the tissues, and then on the venous end, they're pulled back in. But only about 85% of that fluid is pulled back in. The other 15% actually is picked up by lymphatic vessels and transported back. And as it's being transported back, it's also being checked for pathogens. So the second major function is it plays a role in our defense against disease. And so I just thought this was a cute little cartoon picture. I got it from WordPress, and it's here you have bacteria. Hi, I'm bacteria. I'm present in every area, which is true because we actually, as humans, are composed of more bacterial cells than we are human cells. We have so many bacterial cells, it's ridiculous. I'm a virus. I'm here to make you aware of us. So viruses are found all over. Viruses are non-living, but when they get into a living cell, they take over the cell's machinery, produce multiple copies of themselves, and can cause all kinds of damage. And then I'm a parasite, so here's a little worm. You think of me in the hindsight, and that's kind of a joke because typically people think of worms as intestinal parasites, and they come out of your hind end. Get it? Ha ha. So anyways, I like this cartoon, thought it was appropriate for this slide. That's why I put it there. So let's look at the lymphatic vessels. Lymph consists of tissue that came, or excess fluid tissue that came from the blood plasma. So it's fluid, it is proteins, it is potential pathogens that were in your blood plasma, and they're picked up by these lymphatic vessels. And they're transported through the lymphatic system through things such as your lymph nodes that will detect, they basically test the fluid to make sure that there's no pathogens in it, and then they dump it back off into your veins, and it's returned to the blood. Lymphatic vessels are one-way vessels. So very similar to your veins, lymphatic vessels have valves, just like your veins did. And so fluid moves in one direction. It always moves towards the heart. That's the direction that fluid moves. And there's not a lot of muscle within the lymphatic system, so we use structures like your skeletal muscle pump and the respiratory system to push fluids towards the heart. So here you can see little tiny gaps within a lymphatic vessel. So these are called lymphatic capillaries, and they are right next to your blood capillaries. And so any fluid that doesn't get back into the blood capillaries is going to be able to move into the lymphatic capillaries. But once it moves in, it can't move out. It's stuck. And so you can see that overlap. So fluid moves in, and then it kind of doesn't have anywhere else to go. So it just flows through the capillary into the lymphatic vessels. And so it moves due to changes in pressure. When you have higher pressure, the pressure outside of those capillaries, the pressure opens those valves. And when the pressure inside is greater, then the valves close up and they can't open again. So I told you that they're weaved within the blood capillaries. You can see how they are right next to these blood capillaries. and it's on this venous end that the majority of the fluid is going to move back in, but fluid can move on both sides. About 15% of the fluid that is leaked out actually comes back in to the, or 15% of the fluid that leaks out of the arterioles and or out of the capillaries does not get picked back up by the veins or by the capillary end of the by the venous end of the capillaries, and that 15% moves into your blood capillary or your lymphatic capillaries and is then moved through the lymphatic system to be checked and dumped back into your subclavian veins. And so we have multiple vessels that lead from those capillary beds, those lymphatic capillary beds, and also that would be your blood capillary beds because they're intertwined. They dump fluid eventually into your subclavian veins. And so here you can kind of see the flow. Lymphatic vessels collect lymph from capillaries. The lymph is then carried away and moves towards lymph nodes. So we have lots of different lymph nodes. Lymph nodes then test the lymph and then move it away towards the heart. And actually the fluid is going to be dumped back into your subclavian veins. So there are two major lymphatic ducts that dump fluid back into the subclavian veins. You have the right lymphatic duct. So this yellow portion here is the right lymphatic duct. Right lymphatic duct drains the right side of the head, the right shoulder, the right arm, and the right side of the thoracic cavity. Then you have the thoracic duct. The thoracic duct drains the left side of the head, the left shoulder, left arm, left side of the thoracic cavity, and the entire lower region of the body, abdominal and appendages, all the way down, abdominal, pelvic, and appendages. And these are going to dump into your subclavian veins. And then the subclavian veins come together forming the brachiocephalic vein, or subclavian veins and internal jugular vein come together forming the brachiocephalic vein, and when the brachiocephalic veins come together, they form that superior vena cava, which dumps back into the right atrium. And so this is what I just said, same picture, but now you're seeing the words stating that the right lymphatic duct drains lymph from the right arm, the right side of the head and thorax, and the right side of the thorax. Thoracic duct drains everything else. And so very similar, like I said, to your veins in the cardiovascular system. These have no muscles really associated with them. They have very minimal musculature, and so they require the skeletal muscle pump to help push fluids. They have valves, so it's a one-way system, and it's the milking action of the muscles that move the fluid towards the heart. When fluid flows in from a lymph node, it flows, or from blood vessels into lymph nodes, it flows in a one-way direction into the through the cortex and into the medullary region of the lymph node. And then there are white blood cells, macrophages, as well as B and T lymphocytes that are going to detect any pathogens. Macrophages will phagocytize the material, so eat it and break it down, and then they can show the material on the surface of the cell. B and T lymphocytes can then become activated by the pathogen. And so things that are filtered, you might filter fluid that contains bacteria, viruses, cancer cells, or just waste products. All the fluid once it gets into the lymphatic node, will then leave through efferent lymphatic vessels, heading still towards the heart. And so I told you that macrophages are found within the lymph node. And so here is a macrophage. I just love this picture. It's so beautiful. Here's a macrophage engulfing multiple single-celled bacteria, rod-shaped bacteria. It will digest these, and then it can produce little tiny surface proteins that say, hey, these are pathogens that I found on the or in the fluid. And then lymphocytes can respond to that material. So most lymph nodes are relatively small. They're kidney bean shaped. And you usually find lymph nodes in collections or aggregations. There's an outer region and then an inner region. The outer region is the cortex. The cortex contains lots of lymphocytes. And it may also contain some antibodies or plasma cells when the body is actually physically fighting off infections. And then the medulla is the inner region, and that's where you find all of those macrophages. And so again, here's that medulla. And then out here you have the cortex. Here we have the germinal region where we can have B and T lymphocytes, antibodies, and even plasma cells. So there's a one-way direction for the flow of lymph. It enters through afferent vessels into the lymphatic nodes, and then it moves through the lymphatic nodes, being tested the whole time, and exits through efferent lymphatic vessels. We also have other organs associated with the lymphatic system that we'll talk about. We have tonsils, we have a thymus, the spleen, we have aggregations of lymphatic tissue known as Peyer's patches, which are like tonsils in the intestines. The appendix is kind of a lymphatic structure, but it really doesn't have a lot of a function anymore, much of a function, I should say. Tonsils and Peyer's patches are aggregations of lymphatic tissue that attack any potential pathogens through that digestive system, which is one major way that pathogens get into our system. The thymus is super important, specifically in childhood. The thymus is where T lymphocytes become active. They maturate, they become immunocompetent, which basically means that they're able to detect a pathogen, pathogen or antigens that are non-self from the self-antigens in the body. The spleen is the filter for blood. So like I said, lymphatic vessels pick up fluid that has been filtered out of the blood, and that is moved to those interstitial regions. And then that fluid moves towards the heart and is dumped back in. Well, the spleen actually takes blood. So actual blood moves into the spleen, and the spleen is where you're going to have filtration of blood. The macrophages and lymphocytes will detect any potential pathogens in the actual blood. Any blood cells that are damaged can go to die, and macrophages will break them down in the spleen. Because remember, blood has a very short lifespan since it has no nucleus and it has no real organelles. It's going to die much faster than other cell types. And then, like I said, with the tonsils, the Peyer's patches and the appendix are tissues that are lymphatic, and they basically will protect that organ. The appendix is what we call a vestigial tissue. So vestigial structures are structures that at one time probably served a very important purpose, but today they don't really have as big of a purpose. One thing the appendix does do is it contains a population of our normal microbiota of the intestines. And so when we take an antibiotic that kills off pathogens in the intestines, the appendix can repopulate the normal microbes again. I've talked about some of these structures already, but the spleen, which is right here, filters and cleans blood, provides a site for lymphocyte proliferation, destroys worn out blood cells, and in the fetus it can actually form blood. The thymus is found right over the heart, and it is largest in infants and young children. And once you hit puberty, your thymus starts to regress or get smaller, and eventually, once you're an adult, the thymus is not much more than fatty tissue, because we form our immune system during childhood. The tonsils are masses of lymphatic tissue that trap and remove pathogens before they can get into our system. Tonsillitis, which is a common occurrence, especially in children, occurs when the tonsils become congested with bacteria, and if this happens multiple times, they usually will take the tonsils out. Peyer's patches then are similar to the tonsils. They are patches of lymphoid tissue that contain lots and lots of macrophages and lymphocytes. They're going to capture any potential pathogens, kill them. They also help to produce an immune system because they test the pathogens or the bacteria in our gut and keep our immune system hopping, basically. Mucosa-associated lymphatic tissue includes your Peyer's patches, which we talked about, your tonsils, and your appendix. These basically act as sentinels. They are going to be located not just in the intestines, but they're located throughout the body, anywhere that pathogens could get in. So in the lungs, digestive tract, and even in our respiratory tract. So at this point, you should be able to answer the following study guide questions. And I am going to actually stop this video because it's been 18 minutes. So I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.